Most conversations are just two people waiting for their turn to talk, not listening, waiting. You can see it happen. Someone's still finishing their sentence, and the other person's mouth is already moving. We call this a conversation. It's closer to two monologues taking turns. Real listening is rarer than it sounds.
It's not just staying quiet. Staying quiet while planning your response isn't listening. It's rehearsing. The smartest people in any room are usually not the ones talking the most. They're the ones asking a question, then actually going quiet long enough to hear the answer. Watch a skilled interviewer sometime. Notice how long they let a silence sit before jumping in. That silence isn't awkward to them. It's where the real answer usually shows up. Most people fill silence out of discomfort. The best listeners let silence do its work. There's a reason we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. It's an old cliche, but the ratio is the point. Listening takes more effort than talking. Talking is automatic. Listening is a choice you have to keep making sentence by sentence. Here's what most people get wrong about listening. They think it means waiting politely. Actual listening means letting what the other person says change your next thought. If your response would have been the same no matter what they said, you weren't listening. You were just taking a turn. Children figure this out early, then get told to stop. A toddler will interrupt, ask why, ask it again and again, chasing the answer instead of the applause. Somewhere along the way, we learn that talking gets rewarded and listening doesn't. Talking gets you noticed in meetings. Listening gets you understood, but rarely gets you credit. So most people optimize for the wrong one. They learn to sound smart instead of learning to actually understand. But understanding is the harder skill and the more valuable one. Anyone can generate an opinion. Understanding someone else's requires setting your own opinion down first. That's uncomfortable. Your opinion feels like part of your identity. Setting it down, even for 30 seconds, can feel like losing an argument you haven't even had yet. But that discomfort is exactly where good listening lives. The moment you stop defending your position and start genuinely asking, why do you see it that way? Something shifts. The conversation stops being a competition. It starts being a search, done together. There's a reason the brain resists this. Listening well takes real cognitive effort. It means holding someone else's words in mind, tracking their logic, setting aside your own, all at once. Talking, by comparison, is easy. You already know what you think. So the brain, given the choice, defaults to the easier task. It defaults to talking, which means good listening isn't a personality trait either. It's a discipline, the same way patience is a discipline. You don't wake up naturally good at it. You practice it, conversation by conversation. Negotiators know this better than almost anyone. The best ones don't win by talking the other side down. They win by understanding what the other person actually needs, which is often not what they first asked for. Someone negotiating salary might say, "I want more money." A skilled listener hears past that to what's underneath it: recognition, security, feeling valued. Address the real need, and the number often becomes negotiable. Miss it, and you can offer every dollar in the budget and still lose the deal. This is true far outside of negotiation rooms. A friend venting about their day usually isn't asking for a solution. They're asking to be heard first. Jump straight to advice, and you've answered a question they didn't ask. Sit with what they're saying, and you'll often find the real question underneath. Good listeners resist the urge to fix things immediately. Not because fixing is wrong, but because timing matters more than people think. The same pattern shows up in long relationships. Ask any couple who's been together for decades what actually keeps them together. It's rarely we agree on everything. It's usually something closer to they actually hear me, even when we don't agree.
Feeling understood does more for a relationship than being right ever does. Most arguments between people who love each other aren't really about the topic on the surface. They're about one person feeling unheard, dressed up as a disagreement about dishes or money or plans. Solve the surface topic without addressing the real one, and the same fight comes back a week later, wearing a different outfit.
There's a specific kind of listening that's even harder than any of this. Listening to disagreement without getting defensive. Most people, the instant they hear something they disagree with, stop listening and start building their rebuttal. You can watch it happen in real time. Eyes still on the speaker, mind already somewhere else, loading arguments. By the time it's their turn to respond, they've only heard half of what was actually said. The best thinkers do something different. They let the disagreement fully land before deciding how to respond to it. Sometimes that means discovering the other person had a point they hadn't considered. That's not a loss. That's the entire reason the conversation was worth having. If every conversation ends exactly where you started, you didn't really have one. You just confirmed what you already believed, out loud, in front of a witness. There's a name for surrounding yourself only with people who agree with you. It's comfortable. It's also how smart people end up making bad decisions. Every major failure in judgment has the same fingerprint somewhere in it. Someone stopped listening to the people telling them something they didn't want to hear. History remembers this pattern too. Leaders who surrounded themselves with people willing to disagree tended to catch their mistakes early. Leaders who surrounded themselves with people who only agreed tended to find out too late. The difference wasn't intelligence. It was whether anyone in the room was still being listened to. Which means listening isn't just a soft skill. It's a filter for the truth. And most people have theirs turned off. So how do you actually get better at this? Start by tracking how often you interrupt. Most people are shocked at the real number once they start counting. Try letting a silence sit for 2 extra seconds after someone finishes talking. It'll feel unnatural at first. That discomfort is a sign you're doing it right. Ask a follow-up question instead of offering your own story. Someone shares something, and the instinct is to match it with your own experience. That instinct, followed too quickly, quietly ends their story and starts yours instead. Ask one more question before you do that. You'll learn something you would have missed. Try repeating back, in your own words, what you just heard before responding to it. It feels slow at first. It also catches misunderstandings before they turn into arguments. Notice when you're listening to respond instead of listening to understand. They feel different from the inside once you know what to look for. One is focused on what you'll say next. The other is focused entirely on what they're saying now. The shift between those two states is small, but it changes everything about the conversation. People can feel the difference, even if they can't name it. They know when they're being heard, and they know when they're just being tolerated until it's someone else's turn. The ones who make you feel truly heard are rare. You probably remember every person in your life who's made you feel that way. Chances are you don't remember them for what they said. You remember them for how closely they listened. That's the quiet secret behind most people who seem wise. It's not that they know more. It's that they've heard more because they were willing to stay quiet long enough to. And here's the part that surprises people. Listening well doesn't make you invisible.
It doesn't make you weaker in the room. It usually does the opposite. People trust the person who listens more than the person who talks the most. Trust is built in the pauses, not in the pitch. So the next time you're in a conversation, try something different.
Don't prepare your response while the other person is still talking. Let their words finish landing before you decide what to do with them. You might find the conversation goes somewhere neither of you expected. Because the smartest thing you can do in a room full of people talking is sometimes simply to listen. If this helped you listen a little closer, like it, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for the next one. Because the people worth learning from are usually the quiet ones.